At that time, I was overcoming uh, domestic violence and coming out of a really low point. I would say a rock bottom point in my life. So I'm Andrea, and I'm the owner of Barre Soul Studios. We are located in New England. We have 5 brick and mortar locations. We're in Mass, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. And we also have an online bar teacher training called Bar Guild Academy. And I am the author of a book called Own It All. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I was a teen mom and had a challenging past before I came to becoming a fitness instructor and eventually owning a business. So I'm really passionate about women's empowerment, and that was the reason why I wrote my book. And it's a big part of our why behind what we do at Barre Soul. I would say I've always kind of been a hustler before I knew to call it being an entrepreneur. So, I had my son when I was 19. And for me, it never occurred to me that that would really limit my opportunities. I still held myself to a really high standard for what I was out to create and accomplish in my life. So eventually, I stumbled into teaching fitness thinking it was a side hustle until I figured out what I really wanted to do. And at that time, I was overcoming domestic violence and coming out of a really low point. I would say a rock bottom point in my life. So really this side hustle that I thought was just a part-time job ended up creating so much empowerment and so much healing for me that as I was finishing up my degree at the time in women's studies and getting really passionate about feminist issues and women's empowerment, it occurred to me one day that this platform in boutique fitness is actually could be an ideal platform for someone who wants to have a big impact and who wants to have a ripple effect on the lives of women and marginalized people. When I started my journey as a teacher, it took courage just for me to even find my voice enough to get in front of a class and think that I had enough authority to actually teach them anything at all. So teaching itself was a huge growth opportunity for me. And my career really has just been a series of baby steps that at the time were the biggest. I call it taking the biggest risk that you can stomach for today. It's the biggest risk that makes sense that you can bring yourself to take. So at the time, when I first started, just teaching was such an act of courage. And then eventually I moved into, okay, if I were taking this more seriously as a career, what would be my next step? Well, that became managing a studio, which became quitting my management job and starting to freelance as a teacher and creating my own method, which I would teach out of different other people's spaces. And then eventually I really fell into owning my first studio when I was looking to partner with that location to create a bar program out of their yoga studio. That's when the owner confided in me that she was moving and she would like to sell me the studio. She was willing to finance it to me. So I definitely fell into it. It wasn't something I was entirely expecting.
Hey everybody, Jessica LaChance here. Do you want more business education for your fitness studio or wellness business? Subscribe to our YouTube channel or our email newsletters, and we'll see you here soon.